Switch statement in MATLAB and in the other languages. If and switch statements are very close to each other. We discussed if statements that you can use. If this condition is met, do this, else if this condition is met, do this, and so on and so forth. In switch statement, basically you evaluate one variable or well, a condition on a variable, let's say that, or you evaluate one variable and you evaluate different cases of that variable. That if this variable has this case, let's say the variable is a, and you say if a is 2, do this, if a is 3, do this. So these are called cases, right? So basically this is how it goes. You have some expression or a variable or something, and then you have different cases for that expression. That if expression has value 1, whatever value 1 is going to be, then do these operations. If the expression has another value, then do this operation. And at the end, like we use in if statements, else, in switch statement we use otherwise. If none of the cases are valid, then otherwise do this operation, right? And again, switch statement ends with an end, and in Octave it's gonna append this end with a switch, end switch. I will highly encourage you, advise you, although I will be checking your assignments in Octave, that's what I have at home, but if I am executing your files in MATLAB, MATLAB does not like anything to be appended with end, so it gives an error. So don't append anything with end. I mean, it will work in Octave perfectly, and it will work in MATLAB as well. Okay. Look at example 17. Average score from a term for the term or final term. So term exam, midterm exam, or final exam for MATLAB class based on the user's inquiry. Assume that the term exam average is 75.4 out of 85 or 88.7%, and final average is 70 out of 85 or 79.5%. So if you look at the code that I wrote, my inquiry is please select the exam for which you want to check the score, either the midterm or a final, and you're gonna enter it as a string, right? So you're gonna enter it in quotes like this, in apostrophes. Now you can also ask user to enter as a string if you just add comma after this, comma, and then s in apostrophe. Then user does not have to put the statement in as characters. The user doesn't have to put in apostrophe. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, if I say a is equal to input, what is your name? Right. Use the single quotes. What is your name? Right. So if I didn't enter anything. So if I do Masood, it's gonna ask what is your name, and Masood. So it's gonna take only one. Hold on. It should not take only one character. Let me write it as a script. Perhaps it's gonna script as it's gonna be better. So if I say a is equal to input, enter your name as a string, right? And let me save it as you know, anything. Let's say Q. I'm just gonna call it, or Masood underscore Ijaz underscore, let's say exercise 13, whatever. So if I run this, it's gonna ask me, oh, it's gonna, what did I put at the end? And it what is your name? So if I do OOT, enter, and if I look at A is going to be Masood, right? So, but here I have to use characters like a string. I have to put the quotations. But if you don't want user to put that, you can ask user, you can just make it part of your input. Input, what is your name, right? And when you do that, just use S over here. Now user does not have to put a quotes, basically a apostrophe, when they are typing their name. So if I execute this, what is your name? Masood, that's the first one, so I have to use quotes. And the second one is what is your name, so I'm not gonna put a quote. So A is Masood and B is Ijaz. And you can see the difference, how you can ask user to give a string with S embedded in input, so user don't have to put in apostrophe the whatever string value they're giving. All right, so just I think a tangent, something not part of this, but anyways. So in this one, I ask user to enter either midterm or final, and then I used this as my expression that is holding the value of either midterm or final, and I use that in switch. So switch lower exam. Okay, what does lower do? Basically lower make all the characters that are entered by the user, a string of characters, in lowercase. The reason why? Because we don't know how user is going to be entering midterm or final. Maybe the first letter is going to be uppercase, rest is lowercase. Maybe the last letter is uppercase, or maybe all of them are uppercase. Same goes for final. So since we don't know, and since whatever expression you're writing in the switch statement, it is going to be matched exactly with the cases, right? So if you don't know how user is going to be entering midterm or final, uppercase, lowercase, combination of uppercase, lowercase, it is always better to change that either in lowercase using either lower command, or all of the characters in uppercase using upper command. And then you can easily write down the cases. For example, I changed everything, all the characters that are entered for exam by the user as a string, I changed the whole string in lowercase. So now I can write down lowercase midterm. If this value is equals to midterm, then print this out. If the value, if the case matches with the final, again lowercase, then print this out. And if none of these are valid input, then otherwise your selection is invalid. All right, check this out. Explanation of why I'm using lower. Another example, example 18, go over this example yourself. And example 19, there are a bunch of examples here. Okay, given the following set of linear equations, solve for the unknown variables using Cramer's rule or matrix inversion method. So ask user to choose Cramer's rule by entering 1, matrix inversion method by entering 2. So this is my set of linear equation, and you have, again, there's a bunch of exercises that we discussed in under lab view. We discussed exercises, earlier exercise, one of the exercises that you did in MATLAB, where you were trying to find the values of unknown variables using matrix inversion method to solve for the linear equations. So in this one, you are asking user which method to use, either Cramer's rule or matrix inversion method. So you're going to ask method input, enter 1 for Cramer's rule, 2 for matrix inversion method. Alright, and before that I just print out some explanation. Please select the method you would like to choose and to solve this equation. So when user is going to enter either 1 or 2. When user will enter 1, so method value is 1. Then I'm printing a statement solution using Cramer's rule. And then I use Cramer's rule, x is equal to determinant of the coefficients divided by determinant of the coefficient of a, and likewise y is equal to determinant of these coefficient 5, 7, 11, 13, that is 6 and 3 replaced by 11, 13. For x, 5 and 7 will be replaced by 11, 13 in the numerator. Now, if user chooses the second method, that is matrix inversion method, then the second case will be matched. Method will be equal to 2, and then you're going to use the matrix inversion method. X is equal to inverse of matrix A times Y, right? That's going to be matrix inversion method times the column vector Y. And X will be equal to the first value of X, Y will be equal to the second value of X. So this is how we can split the vector X into two values, just to show that X is this and Y is this. Uppercase vector X will be holding both values, as you did again in one of the exercises earlier. If none of these methods are valid, one or two, then you're gonna say that it is invalid. Choose one for Cramer's rule or two for matrix inverse. So that's another exercise to show you switch method. Okay, now this problem. All right, many students are confused in this problem. What to do in this problem? This problem is very easy, so please follow me. So if you will be taking digital signal processing course, we'll be doing this again, but at that time you will be able to understand it better as why do we do this thing. So these are window functions, 3 window functions that we use, and these are the equations. So at this time you only have to you don't have to worry about what window function is. All you need to know is we have 3 equations, right? And these equations are in terms of 2 variables, lowercase n and uppercase n. Each equation is in terms of lowercase n and uppercase n. Alright, what is lowercase n? Lowercase n is, so okay, before I do that, let's go back and see what you have to do. You have to ask user to enter an input data vector, right? So when you say that, basically user will enter something. Let's say user is entering y is equal to 1.2, 3.4, 5.6, 7.8, right? Well, that's an input data vector. Or user can enter y is equal to 2 times cosine 2 times pi times 2 times pi times f. Let's say f is 3500 times a time vector, let's say 0, 0.01 to 10 pi, right? So user can enter something like this. That can be another input, right? What type of input is that? Any input. This is a vector. User is going to generate it. Cosine is uppercase. Let's go ahead and change that cosine to lowercase c. And this is the input. Whatever input is, it looks like all 2's, but whatever, right? So user can enter vector any which way that user will. So lowercase n, uppercase n, let's talk about uppercase n. Uppercase n is the length of the vector that user is entering. Okay, so uppercase n is length of y. In this case, it's 3142 elements. And lowercase n is a vector that goes from 0 to uppercase n minus 1. Alright, so that's an index, basically index of your vector y. Okay. So it goes from 0 to 3141. So those are uppercase n and lowercase n. Okay. Alright, so you're going to ask user to enter a vector, data vector, any data vector, right? Irrespective. That's what user is going to enter, any data vector. You're going to take that data vector, you're going to check the length of that data vector and assign that length to uppercase n. And then you're going to generate a lowercase n vector which goes from 0 to uppercase n minus 1. Right? So far so good. Now you're going to generate, now you're going to ask user that choose one of the window functions. So let's say you're going to ask user choose 1 for triangular window, 2 for Hamming window, 3 for Hamming window. So this is in the switch statement, right? Now switch statement is going to start. So let's say switch window. Let's say window is where you are storing 1, 2, or 3 that user is given. If it is equal to 1, you are going to generate the triangular window function using this expression with the lowercase n value, that is 0 to uppercase n minus 1, and uppercase n value, which is the length of your input data vector. So you're going to generate the triangular window function. If user is going to enter 2, you're going to generate the Hamming window function. And if user is going to enter 3, you're going to generate Hamming window function. So now, and otherwise, I mean, if user doesn't enter 1, 2, and 3, just come out and say, hey, invalid function or something like that. Okay, so now what you have to do, you have to generate 2 plots as subplots. So you are going to plot the input data vector as the first subplot, right? User has given you some data vector, so you're going to plot that input data vector. And the second plot is going to be window treated input data vector. What is window treated input data vector? Basically, the vector that you're getting from after you evaluated this expression or this expression or this expression. You're going to multiply that vector, which is the window vector, by the input data vector, and that's the array multiplication, remember, because you are multiplying 2 vectors. Remember, the length of both vectors are same because n is from 0 to uppercase n minus 1. That is, it has the same number of points as the input data vector. So whichever data vector user is choosing, whichever window function user is choosing, you're going to multiply that window function by the input data vector and assign it to any other variable. That's going to be your window treated input data vector. So you have to generate 2 plots, or you have to generate 1 plot with 2 subplots, right? One figure with 2 subplots. The first plot is going to be the input function, just the input function, versus the number of elements, right? So lowercase n. And the second subplot is going to be window treated input data vector. So you have 2 plots, and that's what your output is going to be. So these are some, okay, so this is my input. I basically generated this input, y is equal to 2 sine 2000 and pi 8000, right? So I went ahead and I did clear CLC. I did n is equal to 0 to 99, right? So I generated a vector. For some reason, when I'm creating the video, my keyboard starts behaving really weird. I created a vector n is equal to 0 to 99, right? So 0, 1, is that see, instead of colon it put, okay, 0 to 99. Alright, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, of course, all the way to 99. Just to confirm, here it is. And then I just chose a variable, y is equal to whatever variable is here, 2 sine 2000 and pi over 8000. 2 times sine, I didn't choose for uppercase s and then I put uppercase s, I don't know, sine 2000 and pi 2000 times n times uppercase n again, n times pi divided by 8000. So divided by 8000. Okay, so that's my y. Run it. These are the values of y. So this is y. Now this is any input data vector. So when I will execute my program, and I'm not putting a clear statement at the beginning of my program. So my y vector is not going to be destroyed. If I put a clear statement, then yes, my y vector is going to be destroyed. And you can put clear statement, that's okay, because of course I will be entering a vector for your program, so don't worry about it. It's a good idea to put a clear statement, but never put a clear statement in functions. Otherwise, whatever input variables you are passing, they're going to be cleared out. So never ever put clear statement in a function. Okay, so this is my y, right? So when I executed my program, it asked enter the input data vector. I put y because y already saved in the memory. But here I can put any vector, right? I can put 1, 2, 3, 4 as a vector. I can put any vector over here. This I have already saved. That's why I'm putting y over here, because all the values are saved in y, right? Do not make this vector, do not hard code this vector in your program. Do not put this vector in your program, because your vector has to be entered by the user. So do not put this vector in the program. You can put it just to check your program, but then take it out when you're submitting your program. Okay, you will ask the user to enter the vector. So the next question is enter window function, 1, 2, or 3. So I chose 1 for triangular method, and this is my input function, input vector, and this is the window treated vector. So I calculated the triangular vector using the triangular window function formula that is given here. I calculated the vector, and I multiplied that vector by y, and that is this output right here.